AskReddit by Matt's Daredevil. Serious? Which celebrity has done horrible things but it's swept under the rug? Attention. Serious. Tag notice. Jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted. https://www.reddit.com/r/wiki/wiki_rule_6- in any comment parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit. Message compose ?r AskReddit if you have any questions or concerns. Terrence Howard. Usually people think he's just a bit crazy because of his weird version of math, but the more alarming thing about him is that he's a serial domestic abuser. Which is why he got cut from Marvel. No, he didn't get screwed over. Not exactly swept under the rug, but I can't believe Chris Brown still has a career. I think a lot of people must not have read the full police report of what happened and maybe don't realize how bad that shit actually was. It was brutal. I don't get how he still has a career either. Wyclef Jean and his fake charities. Didn't he date Lauryn Hill when she was 14? Jack Nicholson beat a prostitute so severely it caused her lifelong brain damage, then he beat another prostitute so severely he ruptured one of her breast implants. https://www.theguardian.com/film/2000/may/15/news1. I really only started seeing this recently. I'm kind of surprised it laid low for so long. 'Cause a star of that magnitude doing something like that is a big deal. Tommy Lee from Mötley Crüe literally confesses to rape and abuse of women in the dirt, so twice with the audiobook recording. Served time for it, and by Bobby Brown's account he abused and violently raped her too. I'm not sure if you are talking about the Closet 6 he and NS engaged in without the woman knowing. They swapped in and out, if I remember correctly. And I remember reading it, and thinking WTF? And I believe NS tried to backpedal on it, saying certain parts of the book were embellished, etc. Emma Roberts literally beat Evan Peters, but it's always overlooked by her fans or proclaimed mutual abuse. I love Evan Peters too, and I can't stand looking at her now. Minaj could apparently cuddle a rapist and abuse his victim and no one gave a shit until she called herself out over a single lyric. And supported her brother who raped her child. John Stamos. When Jane magazine asked him about the worst thing he'd ever done to screw someone over, he provided this character-destroying anecdote. In the mid-80s, I was in a band. I was playing somewhere in Finland, and there was a girl hanging around who was really drunk and interested in me. I wasn't into her, but my friend was. So the girl came back to my hotel, and I turned the lights down, and we started making out. I said, "Hold on a second, I've gotta go brush my teeth." It was dark. I left the room, and I sent in my friend who looked like me. In Jodie Sweetin's autobiography, she talks about a time where Stamos partied with and slept in the same bed with her and one of the Olsen twins, when both were teenagers at the time. It's been a few years since I read it, so I can't remember the details, but it was definitely ick. People talk a lot about Anthony Kiedis' biography Admission to Banging Minors, but I definitely remember flipping through Keith Richards' biography and mentioning the same thing, and I like meeting her parents in their house, and never heard it mentioned somehow. Listen, if you adopt them or become their guardian, it's totally legal. A lot of athletes, If you're successful enough, people just ignore it. I love the SNL skit where they have the NFL players introduce themselves by what crimes they committed. Anthony Kiedis literally put in his autobiography that he knowingly committed statutory rape. I saw a paparazzi picture of him yesterday with his 20-year-old girlfriend and thought, yep, he hasn't changed, he's just making sure it's legal now. Mark Wahlberg has quite the history, even being jailed for a hate crime. Mark Wahlberg committed so much racial harassment as a teenager that his victims received a civil injunction. I've got to imagine that local Boston TV had ads like, if you or a loved one have been verbally or physically assaulted by Marky Mark, you may qualify. Arthur Freed. When interviewing Shirley Temple, evidently he unzipped his pants and exposed himself to her. I never actually saw any of Temple's shows or whatnot, however I heard she endured awful abuse, and her shows had very inappropriate connotations, as well as groping the little child. Pedophilia was rampant even back in the early 30s. They just got better at hiding it. Shirley would have been 11 years old when this happened. Sick, disgusting pervert. Roman Polanski. Dude got standing ovations at the Oscars. Sick. Everyone forgets John Hamm hospitalized a fraternity pledge in his frat, and resulted in the frat being shut down. From Wikipedia, Hamm lit the pledge's jeans on fire, shoved his face in the dirt, and struck him with a paddle. The pledge required medical care and ultimately withdrew from school. The incident resulted in the fraternity being shut down. I think this might be the only one I've seen so far where I didn't dislike the person already made it further than I thought I would. Caitlyn Jenner killed someone. Still gets more shit than Matthew Broderick for doing the same thing. Tiger. How has he not been fully cancelled? He's a literal pedophile. Tom Cruise. He's effectively been the public face of a profoundly abusive cult for what, 2 decades now? But no one cares when a new movie comes out. Almost 3 decades if I recall. Don Henley of the Eagles. His solo song Dirty Laundry is about how mean the press was to him when a teenage girl he'd been raping overdosed and died at his house, and he claimed that the drugs she OD'd on were hers to avoid drug charges. I hate the fucking Eagles, man. Chris Brown. First one that came to mind. Maybe in his case it wasn't swept under the rug, but only because he beat up his GF who happened to be a megastar and they were supposed to go to the Grammys that night. Pretty sure if either of these factors hadn't been present, no one would have known about it, or at least not for longer than a day. BTW, in case anyone hasn't seen the full extent of his assault on Rihanna, there's a transcript somewhere on the web and it's disturbing. Never mind that since then he's beaten up another girlfriend and a bunch of other people. He just beats up everyone, basically. Doesn't seem like anyone cares. He should be rotting in jail, instead he's selling out concerts. Mark Wahlberg beat and blinded a Vietnamese guy just because he was Vietnamese. Boy George beat a guy with a metal chain after cuffing him to a radiator. NBA Hall of Famer Karl Malone raped a teenager. Jared Leto's been accused of rape by half a dozen teenage girls as well. Emma Roberts beat the shit out of her then boyfriend Evan Peters, then continued to co-star in the same show as him. Charlie Sheen once had unprotected sex with his girlfriend when he has HIV. Wahlberg believed he had left the second victim permanently blind in one eye, though Trin later said that he had lost his eye during the Vietnam War while serving in the South Vietnamese Army, which fought alongside American forces. Jackie Chan had an affair and then abandoned the daughter of said affair. Wasn't present in her life at all. She ended up homeless in Canada last I heard. That's so sad. I hope she's okay. Jared Leto. Nicki Minaj. The list is endless, I'm sure, they just popped into my head right away. To quote the Beast is the new style. If I played guitar I'd be Jimmy Page. The girl is I like are underage. Check it. Page had a 14-year-old girlfriend stay with him at Peak Zep, and by all accounts Peter Grant, their manager, was an even bigger piece of shit.